Thank you to Clip Studio Paint for sponsoring this video. Hi everyone! Welcome back to the channel. For today's video will be a little different, as you may have heard. I am doing voiceover as I talk about Clip Studio Paint. Now this video is in collaboration with them, but everything I will say are based on my personal experience and first impressions about the app. For this collaboration, I'm using the Clip Studio Paint Pro version 3.06 on my iPad Air. I have not used Clip Studio Paint before, but I personally heard it from my friends who are digital artists and animation students. I was really excited to finally try it out myself because digital art is something I always wanted to learn. At the same time, I wanted to keep my traditional art style. With CSP, I was actually surprised that I was able to achieve the traditional watercolor art style look I want digitally. When I first opened the app, one of the things that actually surprised me was the tools it offers. With this interface, it's almost as similar as the PC version of CSP. There are actually two modes that Clip Studio Paint app offers for tablets. This one is called the Studio mode. If you're more familiar working with the PC interface, the Studio mode will be much more convenient for you. But for someone like me who's just beginning to learn the app, we'll talk more about the simple mode later on, made specially for beginners like us. Now I have to mention one of the tools that the Studio mode have, which is the color mixing palette, which I believe is really great for studying color theory. It's like having the traditional palette. They also have an online assets library. Basically, it is a library full of downloadable content to add to your art, such as textures, materials, brushes, patterns, backgrounds, and many more that is also made by fellow artists and users of CSP. From the Studio mode, you can easily switch to the Simple mode by clicking the Clip Studio Paint logo on the upper left corner and choosing the Switch to Simple mode option. So as you can see, the interface is much more simple with the basic tools on the left panel, the layers on the right panel. From sketching to painting, the toolbar has everything you need for your basic illustrating. You can also access the materials library on the right panel. I accidentally discovered that they have 3D models. I didn't know that they have this. I don't really draw body or anatomy a lot, but if ever I get a chance to finally learn it, I think this would be very helpful. They even have a lot of options for poses, so you can customize your character any way you want. This is basically like a mini assets library where you can easily access materials and backgrounds you may want to add, even textures for your paper. The lasso tool is also available in a toolbar. Now I don't use this quite often, but I'm familiar with how it works, and I didn't expect that a tablet art app to have this, not to mention that it is included in the default basic tools option. Another tool in the toolbar I was generally surprised about is the liquify tool. Now, I wasn't aware that this is possible on an art software because honestly, it saved me a lot of time from correcting mistakes. If you compare it with the traditional way, it usually takes me a lot of tries until I'm satisfied. This is very helpful when you struggle a lot with proportions or may want to tweak your art a little bit. For this video, we'll be drawing one of my favorite Filipino food of all time. I've been getting questions and comments from my other videos and Instagram, what's my nationality? And to answer those, yes, I am Filipino, and this video will prove that. My favorite Filipino food of all time is sinigang. If you're not familiar, most Filipino food are viands, usually partnered up with rice. It's good as it is, but with rice, it would be 10 times much more better. Sinigang is my all-time favorite. My mom's version is the best. I'm really glad I'm finally able to share my favorite dish with you through art and with clips that you paint. I'll be talking about my favorite tools as we go along the whole process of the painting. As we have already begun the rough sketch, I used the default pencil for the sketch of the artwork. There are a lot of options for coloring your art. Personally, I really love the default watercolor brushes. There are two available options, the round brush and the flat brush. I'd like to begin the base layer by modifying the round brush in the settings by turning on the watercolor edge. This one is personal preference, but it can depend on you. To put it simply, turning on this option creates an outline for your brush. When you turn it off, it's just smooth. I began the painting process by adding a new layer for the base. As much as possible, I like to avoid lifting up my brush to prevent overlaying the colors and to maintain the smooth canvas. Another tool that helped me achieve the watercolor look is called the Wet Bleed Blender. This tool helps smoothens out the outline that the watercolor edge has. I will now add a new layer for another subject of the base layer, just so it is easier for me to navigate in between the colors of the subject. I also like to use the Wet Bleed Blender to create the gradient between two colors in the same layer. This process repeats for the rest of the subjects. I then add a new layer for the second layer of each subject. By now, I'd like to have the paints to have a much more smoother look than before, so I turned off the watercolor edge. When I'm satisfied with how it looks, I merge all the layers of each subject just to keep it organized and neat. This process goes on for the rest of the subjects until I finish all of it. If you've been watching my watercolor painting videos for a while now, I tried to apply my traditional technique to this experience, and for me, it worked really well. I was honestly surprised on how the brushes felt while I was drawing. For me, it didn't feel like I was working on my iPad at all. It felt real and natural. As a traditional artist, it definitely exceeded my expectations. Customizing the watercolor brushes helped create a much more authentic feeling. Besides watercolors, there are other variety of traditional brushes for other mediums such as gouache, pastels, oil paints. The decoration tools are also worth mentioning, which is very interesting and really cool. Immediately adds a background or a design to your art. I'd also like to mention the rough textured paper from the material assets that made the art look more traditional. I also used the G pen for the line art and adding highlights. For the finishing touches, I used the watercolor splash brush to create a creative and interesting background. I be using this app? Definitely. My iPad is often with me because of school and work, so if ever I get bored, take a break, or just want to chill in a cafe or draw outside, it definitely would save me space and the hassle of having to bring my art supplies all the time. And I really enjoyed this experience and I look forward to creating more art with this. There are still so much more for me to explore, so please look forward to more art from me with Clip Studio Paint. The simple mode made my experience a lot more easier, and all the drawing tools I didn't even know I needed was available on their default toolbar. Overall, I really had fun playing around different mediums, enjoying the traditional texture that Clip Studio Paint has to offer. There is still the assets library that I can't wait to explore. I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to try digital art, and especially for any artist who wants to keep the traditional art style. It is possible with CSP. If you want to try them out, their software are also available on the PC for lifetime purchase and monthly or yearly subscription for phones and tablets. Thank you so much for joining me today, and big thank you to Clip Studio Paint for partnering up with me on this video. This was a very enjoyable painting and learning experience.